Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Education Insights. I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell, an education researcher and curriculum specialist. Today, we'll be diving into a fascinating topic that affects every student, teacher, and parent, types of curriculum in education. I'm joined by my colleague, Professor James Wilson.
Hello, Sarah, and hello to all our listeners. I'm really excited about today's discussion. Curriculum is something we all experience, but rarely pause to analyze or understand in depth.
Absolutely, James. Most people think of curriculum as simply a set of lessons or textbooks, but it's so much more complex and layered than that. In fact, there are several types of curriculum that work together in our education system.
That's right. Before we dive into the specific types, let's give our listeners a basic definition. Curriculum essentially refers to the planned sequence of instruction or the content that educators teach students in a school setting. But as we'll explore today, there's also a lot happening beyond what's formally written down.
Great starting point, James. Let's begin by outlining some of the major types of curriculum. We have the written curriculum, which is what's formally documented, the taught curriculum, which is how teachers actually deliver material, the supported curriculum, which involves additional tools and resources, the assessed curriculum, which measures student success, and the recommended curriculum, which comes from education experts.
And then we have some less obvious but equally important types, the hidden curriculum, the excluded or null curriculum, and the learned curriculum, what students actually take away from their educational experience.
I think we should focus particularly on the hidden curriculum today, since it's such a fascinating concept that many people might not be familiar with. James, could you explain what hidden curriculum means?
Certainly. The hidden curriculum refers to the unwritten, unofficial, and often unintended lessons, values, and perspectives that students learn during their academic journey. This concept was coined by education scholar Philip W. Jackson in the late 1960s. While not explicitly taught, these are the implicit academic, social, and cultural messages communicated to students.
That's so interesting. Can you give some examples of what might be part of a hidden curriculum?
Sure. Think of this simple act of raising your hand before speaking in class. That's not usually listed in any formal curriculum documents, but it teaches students patience, respect for authority, and turn-taking. Other examples include learning how to satisfy teachers' expectations, how to get along with peers, or understanding social hierarchies within a school.
Those are great examples. The hidden curriculum can also involve broader social norms and values. For instance, which historical figures are prominently featured in textbooks and which are minimized or left out entirely sends messages about what and who is considered important.
Exactly. And it's important to note that the hidden curriculum can reinforce existing social inequalities. Students from different cultural backgrounds may struggle with unspoken rules and expectations that seem obvious to others, but are completely foreign to them.
That's such an important point. The hidden curriculum can create additional barriers for students from marginalized communities or those with neurodivergent conditions who might not pick up on these implicit social cues without having them directly explained.
Very true. This is why awareness of the hidden curriculum is so important for educators. By making these implicit lessons more explicit, teachers can create more inclusive learning environments.
Let's shift gears slightly and talk about traditional versus modern curriculum approaches. These represent two distinct educational philosophies that shape how curriculum is designed and implemented. James, what would you say are the key differences between traditional and modern curriculum approaches?
Great question. Traditional curriculum approaches tend to be more subject-centered and teacher-directed. They typically feature structured content organized into separate subjects with an emphasis on memorization, standardized testing, and uniform learning goals for all students. The teacher is viewed as the primary knowledge authority in the classroom.
And how would you characterize modern approaches?
Modern approaches are more student-centered and interactive. They often feature integrated or interdisciplinary content that connects different subject areas. There's typically more emphasis on critical thinking, creativity, and real-world problem-solving. Modern curricula also incorporate technology, collaborative learning, and personalized learning paths.
Those are excellent distinctions. I think it's also worth noting the different learning environments associated with each approach. Traditional classrooms are often more formal and rigid in their setup, while modern learning environments tend to be more flexible, sometimes extending beyond the physical classroom through digital platforms.
Absolutely, and the evaluation systems differ significantly too. Traditional approaches rely heavily on standardized exams and memorization, while modern approaches often use projects, portfolios, and continuous assessment to evaluate student growth.
One thing I find particularly interesting is the different role of the student in these approaches. In traditional curricula, students are often passive recipients of information, while modern approaches position them as active participants and even co-creators of knowledge.
That's a crucial difference, and it leads to different skill development outcomes as well. Traditional approaches focus primarily on academic and theoretical knowledge, while modern curricula emphasize creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and digital literacy.
Now, I don't think we should frame this as an either-or situation. Both approaches have their merits, don't they?
Absolutely, Sarah. Traditional approaches provide structure, discipline, and a strong foundation of knowledge. They can be very effective for building core academic skills. Modern approaches, on the other hand, often do better at engaging students and preparing them for the complex, rapidly changing worlds they'll face after graduation.
Many successful education systems today actually blend elements of both approaches, taking the strengths of each to create more balanced learning experiences.
That's right. And speaking of implementation, I think this is a good time to discuss some of the challenges educators face when implementing curriculum changes or reforms.
Definitely. Curriculum implementation is where theory meets practice, and it's often more complicated than it seems. What would you say are some of the main challenges educators face?
Time constraints are a major one. Teachers often have limited time to learn new curriculum materials, plan lessons, and collaborate with colleagues. Resource limitations can be another significant barrier. Schools may lack the necessary materials, technology, or infrastructure to implement certain curricula effectively.
Resistance to change is another common challenge. Teachers may be comfortable with existing methods and materials, and changing established practices can be difficult. This is especially true if teachers don't feel they've been adequately included in the decision-making process.
Leadership and support issues can also derail curriculum implementation. Without consistent support from administrators and clear guidance on implementation, teachers may struggle to make necessary changes.
Professional development is another critical factor. Teachers need opportunities to build their understanding and skills with new curricula. Without adequate training, they may not implement new approaches as intended.
Alignment challenges are worth mentioning too. New curriculum materials and approaches need to align with assessment systems and educational standards. When there's misalignment, teachers face conflicting priorities.
And we can't forget the diversity of student needs. Implementing a curriculum that works for all students, including those with different learning styles, abilities, and backgrounds, is inherently challenging, but essential for equity.
These challenges highlight why curriculum implementation needs to be a thoughtful, well-supported process, rather than simply adopting new materials and expecting immediate results.
So what strategies can schools use to overcome these implementation challenges?
Several approaches can help. First, involving teachers in the curriculum selection and adaptation process increases buy-in and ensures the curriculum meets local needs.
Providing sustained, job-embedded professional development rather than one-off training sessions gives teachers the support they need to master new approaches.
Creating collaborative structures like professional learning communities allows teachers to share ideas, solve problems, and refine their implementation practices together.
Aligning curriculum with assessments and standards helps ensure coherence and reduces competing demands on teachers' time and attention.
And of course, leadership matters tremendously. School leaders who provide clear vision, ongoing support, and the necessary resources can greatly facilitate successful curriculum implementation.
Those are all excellent points, James. As we begin to wrap up our discussion today, I'm curious, what do you see as the future of curriculum development and implementation?
I think we'll continue to see a greater emphasis on personalized learning with curriculum approaches that adapt to individual student needs and interests. Technology will play an increasing role in enabling this personalization and providing real-time feedback to both students and teachers.
I agree, and I think we'll also see more explicit attention to social emotional learning and cultural responsiveness in curriculum design. As our understanding of how learning happens continues to evolve, curricula will likely become more holistic, addressing not just academic knowledge, but the full range of skills and dispositions students need.
That's a great point. I also predict we'll see more boundary blurring between formal and informal learning, with curricula that connect classroom experiences to community-based learning opportunities and real-world problems.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the various types of curriculum with special attention to the hidden curriculum, compared traditional and modern approaches, and discussed implementation challenges and strategies.
It's been a fascinating discussion. I hope our listeners have gained a deeper understanding of curriculum and its complexities. Understanding these issues is important not just for educators, but for parents, policymakers, and anyone interested in how we prepare young people for their futures.
Absolutely. And for those listeners who want to learn more about curriculum types and approaches, there are many excellent resources available. Books like The Curriculum, Theory and Practice by A.V. Kelly, or Understanding by Design by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe
offer deeper dives into curriculum design and implementation. And organizations like the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, ASCD, provide a wealth of articles, webinars, and other resources on curriculum-related topics.
Thank you so much for joining me today, James, and for sharing your expertise with our listeners.
It's been my pleasure, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to all our listeners for tuning in to today's episode of Education Insights. If you found this discussion valuable, please subscribe to our podcast and share it with colleagues, friends, or family members interested in education. Until next time, keep learning and growing.